Welcome to 2 Minute Tuesday, and today we're going to go over Penelope's new release, the Marshmallow Toast in their Toasted line. Now what makes this interesting is this was a special selection done by the heads of Penelope and is a little bit different than their normal toast. This is kind of closer to pick, but it is still a blend. It's not a single barrel, but there's been quite a bit of this that has been distributed throughout the United States, and it's getting very, very popular on secondary. We've seen... I have a corgi below me, forgive me. And we've seen a number of these bottles go for upwards of about $150 on the secondary market. Now, for me, in good old Washington, where we have some pretty high taxes, this thankfully has an MSRP of $59.99 plus the Washington state liquor taxes. Is it worth it at that MSRP number? Is it worth it at secondary value, and how does it compare to the standard Penelope Toasted versus a couple of the more common or potentially sought after, common in the sense of Elijah Craig Toasted and sought after in a highly allocated product, Michter's Toasted Bourbon. So we're first going to do 2 Minute Tuesday notes on this, and then do quick, fast impressions comparing them to the normal Penelope Toasted, which is a more common shelfer, the pain in the rear to find Michter's Toasted, and again, the other more common shelfer, the Elijah Craig Toasted. So let's get this bad boy open, get it poured, and get us some notes. Ooh, good one. We've got it poured, gave a little bit of time to rest. Let's start the clock. Immediately, we've got pretty decent color, not a reasonable viscosity. We'll get into the nose. Whoa. Marshmallow Toast is a name for a reason. So out of the normal toasted, last I recall, I got a lot of clove out of it, and I'm definitely getting that here, but there certainly is a kind of like that making s'mores on a bonfire thing going on. There's that kind of toasted lovely marshmallow, a little bit graham cracker. Now this is a Char 1 heavy toast at 110 proof. So compared to some of the others, that might be a little interesting. You know, the more that I nose this thing, that's the big thing. There's that kind of clovish thing going on, and that's the dominant note, with that marshmallow and kind of graham cracker going on, but not a lot else. So, okay. Okay. That was kind of a wild ride. That clove is really strong, and I don't get that in a ton of whiskeys, but the few that I do, I kind of like it because it's different. It's interesting to me. That clove is there like the whole time, but as it gets past the really initial shock, that marshmallow, that kind of golden, almost on the binge of burning it charred marshmallow, is definitely there, kind of hiding right underneath the clove. I think it's cool that you get that out of this. The hallmarks of toasted products, at least for me, when I like a toasted product, I get a lot of like kind of marshmallow and graham cracker stuff going on, and that is definitely here, but that clove is way over the top of it, and that is more subdued, that kind of sweetness and bit of like a desserty thing that's going on. That is definitely more subdued, and underneath that layer, that big in-my-face kind of spices that is really clove dominant in this particular whiskey. But the fact that I'm getting a little bit more of that sweetness in the toasted way kind of offsets some of that clove, so it's not as much of a overbearing monster on my palate, and I like that quite a bit. The finish is not entirely long on this, so let's do an overall score. I like this, but it's not the home run that Havana felt like. For me, the overall score on the Marshmallow Toast is about a 74. While this is not batting up there with some of the big ones, this is not a super expensive product, and it is relatively available. You probably can find this even as this video is coming out. It depends on how crazy the whiskey market is in your area. But if you can find this at MSRP or very close to that, like that about $60 range plus taxes, I think this is a really cool pour to have on your shelf because it has a very different flavor profile. Is it like some super secret monster? Is it going to probably have as divided a base of interest as the Havana? I don't think so. I think people who are going to chase interesting whiskey, and I put that in quotation marks, might go after something like the Havana a bit more, or might chase a higher allocation product like the Michter's Toasted. I would say this is not the most complex flavor profile. I think we had a lot of more complexity out of a few other of the more recent Penelope products. Yeah, I think because the char is only a 1 on this, you definitely don't have that that MGP pepperiness that I love the most that tends to come out of the Char 4 MGPs. But that clove and graham cracker marshmallow thing that's going on is actually really nice. It's a very savory flavor profile. It's not super complex. You're going to have mostly that entire note the whole way through. There's a really subtle influence from the oak, but this is only a 4-year-old whiskey, so you're not going to have a huge oak influence like, say, we did in the Penelope Estate collection. And it's not as super sweet as like the rum-finished Havana. So if you're looking for something that's not going to be overloading your palate with sweetness, maybe you prefer more savory whiskeys, this is pretty awesome. So let's compare this really fast to those other 3 toasted products, the original Penelope Toasted, the Michter's, and the Elijah Craig, and just do like a quick singular sip. How does it compare? Would I go after the Marshmallow Toasted or those other products instead, assuming you find them at a reasonable level of SRP? So here's the regular toasted, and you can actually see right away the color is a bit different. This is lighter. Woo! I almost forgot how like clove forward this is. This doesn't have any of the underlying sweetness that the Marshmallow Toasted does. It smells and tastes a little more ethanol forward, even though it's lower proof. It's 100 proof, but it is heavy char 5 plus toasted. So there's a significantly different toasting profile and charring profile going on with this whiskey. And you can smell that it's a little young and taste it. Would I try to chase the Marshmallow Toasted over this because they're a very similar cost? Absolutely, I would go for the Marshmallow Toasted over this. This is very like one note. It is a lot of clove in my face and a little ethanol-y, a little young. That Marshmallow Toast has that kind of subtle undertone of sweetness. The clove is a little more tampered down while it's the dominant flavor. It's not punching super hard, where this is punching very, very hard for me. I know I've liked this in the past, but like right now, compared to that Marshmallow Toast, if I was scoring this thing, this would score like a 50 comparatively. So there's my thoughts there. Let's do the Elijah Craig Toasted. Now this is a pretty common shelf available whiskey. It's been out there for a while. It's been very popular. For a while, it was like practically allocated. It was very highly sought after, but now it's far more commonly on the shelf. It sits at a total of 94 proof, so it's even lower proof than the regular toasted. It's definitely lower proof than our Marshmallow Toast. It definitely smells like Elijah Craig, though. This, on the shelves in Washington, is a pretty similar price to the Marshmallow Toasted. It's around $60 to $65 a bottle, typically, and it has a very different profile. There's not as much of the like kind of graham cracker and marshmallow that I would normally get out of a toasted. This has more of a like vanilla flavor to it for me. Subtle thing. One of my wife's favorite things that I have done as a mixed drink for her, because she doesn't do a ton of whiskey, but she does try a little bit, was this in Coke. And she said it tasted like a vanilla Coke with whiskey in it, and she liked it quite a lot. So if you have a partner who's not as interested in having whiskey straight, sneak it in some Coke or something. But comparatively, when I go with the Marshmallow Toast over this, the flavor profile is so different. There's not this big, like, in-your-face spice, and it's a lot lower proof, right? It drinks super mellow in comparison. But it's also kind of flat. There's this nice vanilla note and a little bit of kind of oak influence that you would expect out of an Elijah Craig product, of something Heaven Hill that's been around for a while. But you don't have any of the big in-your-face flavors that people tend to like out of, like, the barrel proof, right? And this is just kind of, like, tame. And there's not something that makes it interesting or special in comparison to some of the other products that are on the market. So considering they're similar prices and I'm getting higher proof and a little bit more interesting profile out of the Marshmallow Toast, I would probably go for the Marshmallow Toast. Now finally, we're going to go with the Michter's Toasted Bourbon. This is the Michter's Toasted from 2024. It's highly allocated. It was very, very hard to get here in Washington. I got very lucky. Thank you, Bourbon Baller Lee. He knows that I'm a like total Michter psycho and like helped me get one. But MSRP in my state on these is about $140 after taxes. So close to the secondary value of the Marshmallow Toast. And the secondary of these is anywhere between about $150 and $200 depending on where you look. For those that are trying to play that game and try to equate whiskey to whiskey, this is a little more expensive and definitely a little harder to find than the Marshmallow Toast will be. It should also be noted that this is only 91.4 proof. This is a very low proofer. So if you're expecting an in-your-face monster, that's not Michter's. Okay, on the nose, this isn't fair. Yeah. Okay, Michter's does some like voodoo work with their wood, where their wood influence is just incredible. Even at 91.4 proof, this has a decent linger to it. I mean, it's not going to last forever. This is not high aged, it is not high proof, so it's not going to like sit and just lay on your palate for minutes on end. But given its low proof, it does kind of linger with its flavor for a while. Unlike some of the previous toasteds that are out there, this has a very heavy oak influence to its flavor profile. There's lots of like wood sweetness and wood sugars. It's just Man, it's nice. The nose is wonderful. If you're familiar with Michter's line in general, they have this kind of heavy wood influence to their nose, where they're very sweet and more of the good parts of oak that you can get from aging and char and all that kind of stuff. And they have some crazy proprietary thing they do. Man, and all that transfers to the palate. It's just, if you like heavy oak influence, there's not a lot of fruit or anything like that, but you like a lot of oak, deeper, darker sugars when it comes to like your wood sugar type sweetnesses, and something that just is very crushable, because this is something you, at low proof, you can just sip and sip and sip and be very happy with, but it's definitely a more woody product. And I don't mean like, some people are gonna be like, what? It's like licking a piece of wood? No, it's not like that. But I mean, all the good parts about good influence, similar to like, say, if you go into Eagle Rare 10, where you have all the best influences of age and the oak influence on your product. That's what Michter's does really, really well. Let's get on time. Would I get the Marshmallow Toast over the Michter's? No, I would not. Despite it having higher proof, I just feel like the Michter's flavor profile sits better on my palate. And there's a little bit more complexity and interesting things going on, despite it being almost 20 proof lower than the Penelope. However, if we're talking about MSRP, where the Penelope is about half the price of the Michter's, I would be hard-pressed to say, go buy the Michter's when you could get one of these and have enough money left over for another really good bottle, like the Havana, or some other product to give you some other profile, so you could have two different things. I mean, you could easily buy one of these and a standard Michter's bourbon, which would give you close enough to a profile of the toasted without spending nearly as much money, and have money left over. And in that case, I can understand where, if you are a bit more budget conscious, the Penelope is your winner. But as far as pure flavor profile, if I'm just going off what it tastes like, for me, the Michter's Toasted is the better product. And if you're looking at, say, secondary values where they're getting kind of close to each other, I'd rather spend that extra $10 or $20 to get the Michter's compared to, say, like the Marshmallow Toast. But I have both, so I'm spoiled. With all that being said, what are your thoughts? Have you had the Marshmallow Toast? Have you tried the regular Penelope Toasted? Have you had the Michter's? Do you not like toasted bourbons at all? I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, consider sharing, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. It is absolutely the best way to help us small whiskey tubers continue doing what we're doing, bringing you things like tasting notes, or going out and doing whiskey hunts, some of the other things that I want to do in the near future. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.